Hello everyone, my name is Chris and welcome back to another game review. Today I'm gonna be reviewing The Last of Us Part 1, and as usual I'm quickly gonna go through the story of this game to tell you in short what this game is all about. Then I'm gonna share my own opinions and thoughts about this game, so in case you haven't played it yet, one big spoiler alert across the screen, and yeah, just click away from this video to avoid spoilers and come back after you play a game if you want to, guys. If you don't want to, you don't have to, it's totally okay. But if you really are interested in my opinions and thoughts about this game right now, then stay with me till the end of this video and let's get started. Alright guys, The Last of Us Part 1 is a single player only, linear, third-person action stealth shooter set in a post-apocalyptical zombie world, and it was developed by Naughty Dog. It was developed in PS5's engine, and this game was first originally released back in 2013 as a PS3 exclusive only, and then a year later, I think in 2014, they made a remastered version of this game, which is where I finished it for the first time on my friend's PS4. And then in 2022 they decided to make a remake for first game, because the second game was released, The Last of Us Part 2. And in 2022 they made a remake. They used the engine from the Part 2 and they decided to call this The Last of Us Part 1. And in 2023 they released the game for PC finally, and that's where all the beauty comes. You know, we finally got to play this absolute masterpiece on PC after 10 long years of waiting. This game has finally arrived to PC, and this is yet another PS exclusive that was ported to PC, and it's absolutely beautiful. So the story of this game follows a man called Joel Miller, which is the main protagonist you play with through the entire game. And at the beginning of the game we can see him celebrating his birthday with his daughter. You know, she gifts him this watch that he really likes, and you know, she fall asleep. He wakes up in the middle of the night, carries her to her bed, and then later the game cuts to her. You know, you play with her a little bit. She wakes up in the middle of the night again, and she realizes that the phone lines are cut and there is some scary stuff going on outside. It's all over the news and in the newspapers that there's some sort of fungus that came from the South America, infects people, actually people's brains, and that's where the infection begins in the host's brain. And you know, it just turns you into these monstrosities and zombies, and she's very scared. You know, she witnesses the explosion on the gas station outside the window. She goes downstairs trying to find her father Joel, and he rushes in through the balcony all bloody, and that's where the first infected shows up. He kills him, and then they realize they need to leave the city immediately. Joel's brother, Tommy, comes and picks them up, and he helps them escape the city. And after they witness all the horrors of infection and at the outbreak, they finally somehow survive and escape the city. And once they do, Joel and his daughter Sarah run into this soldier that is given orders to shoot anyone on sight, and unfortunately he kills Sarah while shooting at them. Joel survives and Sarah dies, and it's absolutely devastating scene. And then the game cuts 20 years later, where Joel is now all depressed. You know, he lost his daughter, the thing he loved the most in his life, and you know, he's all lost and just surviving in this completely destroyed and overgrown post-apocalyptical world. He has a friend called Tess, and she at the beginning of the game comes to him and says that she knows where this guy called Robert is hiding, and Robert basically has their guns, and they decide to go and hunt Robert to get their guns back. And while doing so, they find him, but he says that he sold the guns to the Fireflies, and that's where this Firefly girl shows up, and she promises Joel and Tess that she will give them the guns if they do her a favor, and she requested from them to smuggle this girl called Ellie outside of the city. Now Ellie is extremely important character in the game. She's the second main character in this game, and she needs to be smuggled outside of the city. They don't know why they're smuggling her, but that was a deal. Smuggle the girl outside of the city and you will get your guns back. So they decided to do this quest that the Firefly lady gave them. And Fireflies are basically a militia resistance group that was formed in this post-apocalyptical world, and government hunts them. They absolutely hate them, and they are considered as criminals. And Joel decides to smuggle the girl outside of the city to get his and Tessa's guns back. And while doing so, they run into some trouble with soldiers, and they figure out that the Ellie is actually infected. So she is infected, and she's been infected for like 2 weeks, and she still didn't turn into one of these zombies, and they don't know how is that possible. How is she immune to the fungus? And she tells them that she is immune, but the Joel doesn't really believe her. But Tess kind of starts to believe her, and they decide that they should continue the mission. And as they get closer to the end of their journey and completing this mission, which is smuggling the Ellie outside of the city, Tess unfortunately dies, and now Joel is left only with the Ellie, and he has a choice to complete the mission, finish the task, deliver the Ellie to the Firefly group, which can use her to make the vaccine, and she apparently should be the cure for this infection and save the world. And he's faced with the choice of leaving her or just finishing the mission, and he decides to finish the mission and deliver Ellie to the Fireflies. And for the rest of the game, they go through a bunch of bad shit and survival stuff just to get her to the Fireflies in the hospital so they can make the vaccine out of her. And at the end, he manages to find that hospital and the Firefly group, and the leader of the Firefly group, which is this woman called Marlene. And she's the one who gives Ellie's mother a promise that she will look after her. And she says they can finally make the vaccine now. But what happens there is that Joel was very depressed since he lost his daughter, and his life was out of balance. And at the beginning, he didn't give two shits about Ellie. She also didn't care about him. And through the game, you can see them getting bonded, and that's where the beauty of this game really comes together. Joel again finds his purpose and something to live for, something to fight for, and he starts to love Ellie as his own daughter. He accepts her as his own child because he lost Sarah, and she finds out about Sarah. And Ellie is also very scared of being alone and ending up alone. That's her biggest fear. And it's just beautiful how you can see these two characters bonding with each other through this game story that is fulfilled with beautiful soundtracks and voice acting and animations in general. Cutscenes are absolutely beautiful part of this story. There is so much beauty behind this game story. It is so emotional. It is pure freaking 10 out of 10 post-apocalyptical story. It is absolutely beautiful, and the characters just feel so alive, and you can literally feel the emotions and everything just flowing through this game. It's just so flawless, it's so fluid, it feels so natural, it feels so real. The entire story is very intriguing and emotional, and it's just beautiful how Joel starts to love Ellie as his own daughter, even though she's not. And at the beginning of the game, he didn't give two shits about her, while at the end of the game he literally killed everyone in that hospital just to save her, because if they wanted to develop the vaccine, she would have to die, because the cure grows in the cortex of her brain around, and to extract that they would have to kill Ellie, which Joel couldn't allow because he fell in love with her as his own daughter. He accepted her for his daughter. And this, when you think of it, is a story about a love of a father for his daughter. It has a powerful message, and it's beautifully done. It is the story is pure 10 out of 10. There is not a single downside to the story of this game. This is one of the best, if not even the best, zombie post-apocalyptical games that I've played in my entire life. It's heavily story-oriented. It is absolutely beautiful. It's one of my favorites, if not even the favorite zombie apocalyptical game. It's just 10 out of 10, and if you're a fan of apocalypse and, you know, zombie games, this is the one that you absolutely have to play. This is like the number one you have to play. You're not gonna regret it. It's a great story. After the game's 10 out of 10 story also comes 10 out of 10 gameplay, and when I say 10 out of 10 for both of these things, I literally mean 10 out of 10. There is not a single thing that I dislike about this game's story or gameplay, especially because the amount of details the developers implemented into this game's gameplay, and the originality, the realism, the design, absolutely everything is just stunningly amazing. I literally never seen any other game of this type like this that has this good gameplay and features and the realism, the sound design, the absolutely everything is crazy. How I don't even know how they made some of these things, to be honest. I don't know what kind of technology they even use to make some of these things. That's how perfect it is. It's literally 10 out of 10. When it comes to gameplay, I honestly, guys, don't know even where to start from. Like I've said, this is not an open world game or anything. It's a linear third-person stealth action shooter. So you're set in this huge post-apocalyptical world and you go through chapters. You can load them from the menu at any moment. I think I should maybe first talk about what part 1, which is the remake of the game, brings. So part 1 brings things such as model viewer, where you can enter and you can view the models that can be purchased from with the points that you earned through finishing the game. You somehow have to unlock these models, which is kind of stupid to me that you have to unlock them to see them, but I guess that's how the game works. So you got this model viewer where you can inspect the characters and things you meet through the game, and that model viewer is absolutely beautifully done. You can literally inspect like figures of the characters and stuff from the game. Then they added things like skins. You can change the skins of the guns, of the characters. There are even some references to other PS exclusives like God of War. Ellie can, for example, wear God of War Ragnarok shirt, or, you know, she can have the shirt from the Part 2 game where she's dressed differently. You know, it's kind of all connected with the PS exclusives and all that kind of stuff. So it's pretty cool how you can change skins in the game. That's also a new thing they added. Another thing that I absolutely freaking love about The Last of Us Part 1 Remake is the accessibility options. There is literally so many accessibility options, from language to blind support for blind people. Every button you press sounds differently. They added separate sounds for each button, so even blind people can play this game. There is so many things like cheat codes. I don't know why would anyone use that, but you can literally unlock in-game cheat codes that make the gameplay kind of silly and, you know, funny. You can have, for example, explosive arrows, or you can mirror the world every time you die. You know, everything is just, you know, mirrored and confusing. You know, they're just silly things, but they are there. They literally exist in the game, and I think the main reason why they added that is just to show what they're capable of doing with their engine, and developers really thought of a lot of things. So there is a lot of cool accessibility options. You know, there are filter galleries and gameplay modifiers. You know, you can modify your gameplay to have infinite ammo, or maybe have explosive arrows. There's, like I said, that filter gallery that you can choose the filters for the gameplay. You can make your game pixelated, or gray and white, you know, black and white, while you play the game. You know, there is so much options you can play with it. You can completely disable the HUD and have the most realistic possible experience for this game. You can minimize the HUD, which is something I did while playing this game. I disabled all the helping indicators, all the enemy indicators, damage indicators. I absolutely left only what's necessary, and that's the recycle on the screen, which you use to aim, and the HUD for ammunition and health. And that's the only thing that I had from the HUD enabled in the game. This game has absolute minimal HUD in general. And another thing that I left enabled is, for example, these switching weapons icons, you know, when you switch them. But you can also minimize that. You can, for example, remove the numbers. Then you just, you know, press the numbers and it doesn't show up on the screen, but you still switch your guns. It looks much better and beautiful. The accessibility options in part 1 are absolute endless. There's so many of them. You can change the color of the translation on the screen, you know, and you can even enable the direction where the character is speaking from. There is, in the options, you can find the director's commentary where they explain how they made the game, what the ideas they've developed. There is literally like the concept gallery that you can unlock in the game as well, with these points, and like see all the concepts that and the idea they had when they were developing the game. There is absolutely everything. They literally put all the work in the game, so you can play the game and you can also learn about it, how it was made, what they used to make this game, the ideas they were developing. Everything is there. The accessibility options and, you know, all these expansions they added in part 1 remaster are really beautifully done, and just good job, devs, for that. I really appreciated that. I really kind of liked the idea of me sitting just in front of my computer and seeing all these things, you know, and listening to all the stuff. Now, when it comes to the actual gameplay, I guess I could take the combat first, for example. Combat in this game is just a thing of a beauty. It really has that post-apocalyptical atmosphere. You know, the AI in this game is actually pretty smart. You know, it's pretty difficult when you raise the difficulty of the game. If you put it on the highest difficulty, it's pretty fucking hard to play this game. There is even one life difficulty. If you die, the whole chapter or the level resets. That's for the hardcore experience, so you cannot die, you cannot allow yourself to die. So they literally kind of made a game inside of a game with all these options. It just makes the experience much more fun. Even though I finished the whole game on the normal difficulty, you know, it was 10 out of 10. Just absolutely beautiful. Like I've said, when it comes to combat, it's extremely realistic. Enemy AI will call out your location. If you're, for example, standing behind a fridge, they will say, like, he or she's behind the fridge over there. Or, you know, if you're running down the stairs, the enemy AI will actually call it out with these words. She's running down the stairs, she's running down the stairs. You know, they communicate with each other, and what they talk about actually is going on inside of the game. It actually feels realistic. It actually feels alive. The AI and characters and the enemies actually feel like real humans. And it's pretty fucking amazing to me. It's really stunning how they made that. And then, like, the guns, the recoil, and, you know, effects, everything in this game and gameplay is so realistic. Like, the gore, for example, is one of the most realistic I ever seen in a video game. I've never seen a game having more realistic gore and, like, bullet hole, like, wounds in a video game. This is the most realistic one I've ever seen. Like, you can literally fire the gun in someone's face and you can see their face literally blown off, and it's literally where you aimed at and where the bullet hit them. And, you know, entry wounds are smaller than the exit wounds. Like, sometimes there's going to be a smaller entry wound in their eye, and the back of the head is just gonna be blown out. The blood effects and everything, like the gore from the explosions if you throw bombs, nail bombs, you know, it's really realistic. It just feels realistic. That's all I'm gonna say. It doesn't feel funny or anything. It looks and feels real. The sound design, the game has 3D sound design. It's absolutely fucking unique, you know. When you hear the sounds of the infected, for example, you have a bunch of different infected types. You have runners, that's the first phase of infected. Those can be beaten up with your hands. You don't have to use any weapons on them. You can shoot them, you can sneak up on them easily, choke them out. That's the stealth element. I'm gonna come to that later. But yeah, runners are the first stage of infection. They just run at you, try to hit you with your hands. Second stage of infection are stalkers. These are pretty tricky. These are the zombies, the infected people, but they are smart. They will hide around the corners, they will try to flank you. And that's literally how the AI works, just how they are described as enemies in the game. They will hide and wait, they will come from behind you, try to hit you that way, bite you, you know, you have to be careful around the corners. You have to use different weapons to fight them. It's better to use shotgun and close range weapons for them, you know. Then third stage of infected are clickers. That's when the fungus completely breaks out from the brain and takes the sight of the person, you know. And these are the zombies that use echolocation for locating, so you can distract them with the bottles or bricks that you can find around the game. And you can hit them with those bottles and bricks and then finish them off with shivs. If you don't have a shiv, you will have to use a melee weapon to kill a clicker. If you don't have a melee weapon to kill a clicker, well, then you'll just have to use guns or, you know, bow and arrow or something. So final stage of the infection are bloaters. Those are big, huge guys that have been infected for a very long time, and they're basically like zombie tanks. They literally have fungus growing all over their bodies, and once they hit you, it's an insta-kill. It just cuts to the animation and you're dead. So you have to waste Molotovs, grenades, shotguns, everything, the most powerful weapons you got in your arsenal, use against these guys, because they're tough. They're gonna take a lot of beating, and they're very dangerous. One hit is an insta-kill. So I really love how they explained in-game the stages of infection, and you know, all the infected have their unique way how they work, you know, and what they are, and you have to apply a different tactic to each one of them. When you fight humans, like when it comes to human combat, it also really depends. Sometimes you're gonna deal with more armed guys, sometimes you're gonna deal with less armed guys. For example, you're gonna, through the game, meet these hunters. They're basically just bandits. They are kind of easier to kill than maybe military guys at the end of the game. They use assault rifles and, you know, and stuff, while bandits use revolvers, hunting rifles. They'll use the plank to hit you, Molotov cocktails, you know. Enemies really have different varieties. It feels realistic, you know, and it's all connected with the game's story and what's going on in the game in the same time. So gameplay and story are synced together, and that's just something I've never seen like in any other game. It literally has that atmosphere, and it's all followed up with a realistic atmosphere. Sometimes you're gonna have a cutscene that are interactive. You'll have to mash the buttons, and then the transitions between cutscenes and the gameplay are just gorgeously done. You can't even tell the difference. You think it's all the game all the time. It is beautiful. Like, it looks and feels absolutely beautiful. Now, looting is also a big part of The Last of Us. Even though it's a linear world, you know, it's not an open world, often you will find yourself in a peaceful areas where you can literally enter every house, every building, and you just go and search for supplies, like the scrap that you can use for upgrading your weapons. You can find ammunition, you can find all kinds of things that you need to survive in this post-apocalyptical world and environment. Sometimes you're gonna even find the doors that are locked, and then you can use the shiv, so you have to waste the shiv to open these doors. And inside you're gonna find again a lot of supplies like ammunition and stuff. What I also love is how you can find like notes of the people that died, or you know, recorders, and it's all just beautifully synced with the gameplay and story. You can literally take all these notes and items and inspect them. You can rotate them around, and character every time he picks them up, puts them in the backpack. You can pull them out anytime. You can toggle the flashlight whenever you want when you're reading this. So if you're in a darker area, want to read something, just enable the flashlight, rotate it, you're gonna read, and like literally what says on the paper, if you press the button, will be displayed on the screen, so you can actually read these things from the physical object in the game. It is absolutely freaking amazing detail. It works beautifully, and it really depends where you find these notes and things. You know, if they were in some dirty place, or for example, you can find these firefly pendants, and if they were underwater, they're gonna be like rusty and all that. They paid absolute attention to details about everything in this game. They literally thought of everything. It's crazy. When I saw these details, it was something really stunning and crazy to me, you know. So yeah, combat, looting, all these things are just absolutely beautiful, you know. Either if it's a combat against the zombies or humans, it just feels unique. When you fight infected, like I said, you'll have to use shotguns or like pistols for a closer range, you know. Melee weapons are also really good. You can upgrade your skills. Skill tree in this game is literally basic. You got like 5 or 6 skills that you upgrade through the game by finding like the pills that you just kind of pick up, and they add up the points for upgrading, or like flowers or whatever. And you can upgrade like your hearing distance. That is very useful when it comes to stealth. You can upgrade the shiv mastery, which allows you the shiv to be used more times before it breaks. You can upgrade stuff like weapon with durability, which allows the weapon to last longer and have more hits, because all the melee weapons in this game are breakable. Then you can find better melee weapons like axes or machetes that are insta-kill on each hit, and they got a lot. Or you can have a wooden log that breaks in 3 hits, you know, but it doesn't really kill, it just damages the enemy. It takes almost all the hits to kill one enemy. You know, you literally have better and worse melee weapons that you find through the game as you progress. It is absolutely beautiful. Now, when it comes to stealth, that is something also that is beautifully done. I mean, like I said, everything is absolutely beautiful about this game. So the stealth is really well done. With the button, you can hold this hearing instinct, like you can hear the enemies through the walls, and you just sneak up on them. You can see them through the walls, you know. You gotta be careful. It's like hearing. You hear their footsteps. Then you just sneak up on them, choke them out. You can use shifts to take them down faster. You gotta be quiet, and you gotta plan tactic how you take down the enemies. If you are taking down humans, you gotta be careful where you're gonna take them down, because you can't drag the bodies in this game. So you gotta grab them, and then you can move for a shorter time before they break out. And while you can move, you better use that smartly and choke them out behind some wall or container where others can't see them, because if others spot a body, they will be alerted. So it's very unique stealth mechanic, you know. It's pretty smart how the game has done that. If you're stealthing against the infected, well, then you will have to prioritize your targets. You're gonna first want to choke out the runners, because they literally run towards the sounds, and you know, they will alert the other zombies. Or the clickers, even worse. The clickers should be probably taken out first, because they're insta-kill if you don't have the shiv upgrade where you can break out with a shiv. You know, clickers are very dangerous, so you should maybe take out clickers first and then go for the runners. You know, you just have to really think while stealthing, you know. You can't just go around and stealth it very quickly. The stealth is done tactically and slowly, you know. You have to think about what you're doing before you do it. You can use bow and arrow for stealth as well. That's another way you can take out your enemies stealthily. So yeah, the amount of weapons is pretty big in this game. You got everything from pistols to revolvers to assault rifles at the end of the game, hunting rifles, shotgun pistols. You even have a shotgun. You have bow and arrow. You got this El Diablo, which is like a powerful revolver. And believe it or not, all of these weapons can be upgraded. Now, when it comes to upgrading weapons, that is also something that is very beautiful about this game. Like, the upgrading animations are so cool. It's literally so cool. For example, when you find El Diablo, it can only have one single bullet in the chamber and it has to be reloaded after a shot, but that one single bullet will kill pretty much any enemy in the game with one bullet anywhere to the body. And you can upgrade it to hold 3 bullets, and when you press the upgrade button, you can physically see Joel pulling out the cylinder, putting the bigger one, you know, unscrewing the parts on the gun. When you put a scope on the rifle, you can literally see him using the screwdriver to unscrew the parts, to screw the optic on. When you change the barrel of the shotgun, you can see him unscrewing the old barrel, changing the new one. The animations are absolutely beautifully done, and it's combined with very realistic sound approach. And sound design is absolutely unique and beautiful in this game. Each weapon sounds differently, each weapon feels differently, each weapon has different upgrading animation. There is no copied animation for pretty much anything in this game. Everything has its own unique animation. And that is something that I appreciate about this game a lot, and just absolutely love it. Another thing that I forgot to mention is while looting, sometimes you will find these safes around the post-apocalyptical world that contain useful supplies inside. Now, to open these safes, you'll have to search around the area for the note that usually has the code on it, and once you find that note, you can read a little bit of a story about that safe, to who it was left, what happened, and then you can go to the safe, enter that code, and just open the safe, and boom, you got a bunch of supplies inside. So yeah, generally this game has absolutely beautiful gameplay. There is probably even more stuff that I forgot to mention, but there is just so much you could talk about this game's gameplay, because it is absolutely stunningly beautiful and filled with crazy looking details. Also, what I really want to mention is actually a shout out to Gustavo Santaolalla, which is a man who created the soundtracks for both of the games. And soundtracks are just thing of a beauty. They're beautifully depressing. They fit the atmosphere so well. Everything is just so sad, you know, and just fits beautifully with this post-apocalyptical world while you walk around and loot, you know, whether it's smaller area, bigger area, whether you're facing the threat. It is just absolutely beautiful. The soundtracks, oh boy, I really love them. I absolutely really love the Last of Us soundtracks. They're absolutely thing of a beauty. The gameplay of this game is absolutely freaking beautiful. Also forgot to mention that The Last of Us Part 1 comes with Left Behind DLC, so once you purchase The Last of Us Part 1, you also get the access to Left Behind DLC, which tells the Ellie's story before she met Joel, and I also played it, and it was one very fun and interesting experience. You just gotta play this game. You just gotta play it. I think it's not fun if I tell you everything. This is just I mentioned most of the gameplay parts, but trust me, once you play this game, you will feel what I'm talking about. You know, this game is, or you can talk about its beauty, but once you play it is actually where the true beauty comes. It's literally like that. Just go and play the game. It's totally worth it. Now for the end, let's talk about graphics and optimization of The Last of Us Part 1. Now, when it comes to graphics, well, holy shit, man. Guess what? It's yet another 10 out of 10 thing about this game, because this game is honestly one of the most beautiful looking games that I've ever seen, man. I've never seen such detailed graphics on a video game. I can't even think of a game that has graphics like this. This is graphically one of the most, if not even the most beautiful game I've ever seen in my entire life, man. The environment, the lighting, everything just looks so beautifully realistic in this game, man. When you walk out in the world that is completely overgrown with grass and vines, you know, you can find areas filled with water. You can see the water staying on your character's clothes wet for a longer time than in other games, you know. The blood effects, everything, the explosion effects, the lightning, absolutely every single visual detail in this game was worked to the core. They did very good job with this. They did absolutely stunning job with the visuals in this game. It's just beautiful. I could literally just enable this game and walk slowly around the world, and that could be the game for itself. That's how beautiful the graphics are in this game. And yes, it will require a strong PC. I played this game on all ultra maxed out settings. The only setting I had to put on high are texture details, but even with that, I had some frame drops at some parts of the game. But that's due to games optimization, which I'm gonna talk about a bit later. But first, let me tell you what are my PC specs. My GPU is RX 6600 XT, GDDR6 8GB. My CPU is Ryzen 7 3700X 3.60 GHz, and my RAM memory is Kingston Fury 16 gigabytes, and yeah, those are my PC specs that I've used to play this game on all ultra maxed out settings on 1080p resolution. Now, I mostly had 60 plus FPS, but there are parts in the game that the game frame dropped below 60. Sometimes the frame rate went to 30, 35, which was pretty painful. Sometimes it even went below 30, around 27, 28. And yeah, the game optimization is not really the best. Now, I haven't encountered any like glitches or bugs in the game, like either visual bugs or game breaking bugs, but the main issue was with the frame rate and the loading screen, and oh boy, loading shaders. When you first enter the game, you have to let it load the shaders, and that itself takes about an hour and a half to do, man. The game absolutely stutters all the time until it loads the shaders. It's literally unplayable. The game crashed for me so many times, man. It kept crashing. Like, the optimization issues are really huge for this game. Now, it's been quite some time since I finished it, about like 2-3 weeks, so I don't know, did they patch it up with some new patches, but when I was playing it, when it came out at first, it was filled with like game crashes and poor frame rate optimization at some parts. It was just terrible. So this is not really a successful port at first, you know. I'm pretty sure they're gonna fix this with the patches and all that later, but right now, in this condition, The Last of Us Part 1 is not really good on PC. It has a lot of issues, and if you don't have a really strong PC and expensive GPU and CPU and all that like I do, yeah, you're gonna have a really hard time playing this game. I might even say impossible. So you really need to have a good shit in your PC to run this game. So hopefully they fix that, but for me, honestly, if I ignore those issues, I can say that the game for like 90% of the time worked completely fine for me. I didn't encounter any visual bugs or game breaking glitches or whatever. I think there was once a bug where I had to restart the level. Something didn't work, so I had to restart it, and then it worked. And that's the only like game breaking bug or glitch that I've encountered. But yeah, it's there. The optimization issues definitely exist about this game, and even people with the strongest computers and GPUs have problems with this game. So don't blame your PC or yourself. The game is not really well optimized. But again, if you have a really good PC like I do, then you shouldn't really have problems playing this game enjoyably. Like I've said, I had 60 plus FPS most of the time. But yeah, I think those issues were worth mentioning, because you can always mention the good sides of the game, but it's not really an honest review if you are not gonna mention the bad sides. So that's what I believe is. Anyway, altogether, The Last of Us Part 1 is definitely one of the most beautiful games that I've ever played in my life, and in general is one of the most appreciated games in the gaming history. And in the last 10 or so years, it is definitely worth playing. It is the best zombie shooter game, post-apocalyptic zombie game that I've ever played. I absolutely love it. There is not a single thing that I dislike about The Last of Us Part 1, and it's totally worth your time. It's totally worth playing. It's one huge cinematical masterpiece, and you should definitely play it if you're into those kind of games. And if you're a fan of post-apocalyptical stuff and zombies, this is the game that you literally must play. You're not a post-apocalyptical gamer or a fan if you didn't play The Last of Us. Literally, that's what it is. So yeah, guys, check this game out. It's totally worth it. You're not gonna regret it. And I hope you enjoyed this review. If you did, then go ahead and leave a like, share, a comment, or subscribe if you want to. If you don't want to, you don't have to. It's totally okay, guys. You can also join my Chris Facebook group. I post my videos over there as well. So maybe it's gonna be easier to follow for you when I update the content or whatever. So you can join there. And if you don't want to, again, you don't have to. It's totally fine. And I love you guys. I really appreciate all of your support and everything you've done for me and my channel so far. You're amazing. I love you. And I'll definitely see you in the next videos. Chris out.